Okay. Whenever you're ready. Thank you again, Angie.
Hi, well, welcome. Good morning, everybody. I am Angie Mondragon, and welcome to Homeschool Options for Your Special Child. Um, let me just click here. This is my family. I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. I have three daughters, Victoria, Veronica, and Annabella, ages 9, 7, and 5. And my oldest and youngest are on the spectrum. So how did I get started with homeschooling was when Victoria was diagnosed. She was diagnosed at 2 years old with autism. She was nonverbal and had lots of behaviors. We put her, in a school to kind of help her with her life, the learning skills that she needed to do before she got into kindergarten. And what happened was, instead of kind of helping her, she got a lot of anxiety and she had so much stress at 2 years old, not being able to communicate, not being able to understand her environment. There is a pressure when you're in a therapy center or in a school that you have to follow routine. You kind of have to move with the group because you can't just leave one kid behind. In order for safety for the teacher and the staff, we kind of move along at a pace together. And that was not the best thing for my daughter. So after lots of conversation and actually meeting another mom homeschooling her son with special needs, um, she kind of opened the world to, hey, you could do it yourself and help her. And so that's where I started my research around when she was 2 years old about how I could homeschool my special needs child. So everything I learned and all the tools I've accumulated throughout the years, I'm bringing them here today to kind of show you and prepare you and encourage you that you could also do this if this is something you're interested to do with your family. So before we get started, we need to understand our perspective and expectations. And uh, one of the things I wanted to talk about was we need to kind of change what education looks like. We are not going to be teachers. We're not teachers that are licensed, right? Some of us may be, but we're not educators, we're not therapists. So we have to come to an understanding that what we're going to be teaching our children is going to look totally different than how schools do it. So we're going to have to change the way we think school is, and our expectation is to have as little expectation as possible because it's going to change. Our children are going to be teaching us, and we're going to be learning as we go take this path of homeschooling. So here, perspective and expectations again. You are qualified to teach your child. You don't need to be licensed. Um, your homeschooling is not public school, so please do not try to replicate this at home. You have the freedom to create it and have it look however you would like it to look. And each family is going to look differently. No one family looks alike on how they're going to homeschool. And take it easy. Take it easy. Take it day by day. There is no rush. There's no pressure of where our child is supposed to be at. All Everyone learns at a different pace and needs different mediums on how they learn, right? Some are visual learners, some are auditory learners, some are kinetic learners. They need lots of movements. So we're going to take this day by day and no rush or pressure to complete things or goals you have in mind all in one day. So things to remember, our perspective needs to be different. We need to be calm. We need to know that we are qualified to work with our child. Um, you you are already here. The fact that you're here on this call, in this meeting, means that you're interested in your learning. You may not understand, but you're already seeking out your resources on how to do these things. So you're very capable of homeschooling your child just for the fact that you have the desire to search and find an alternative. Patience. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your child. You both are going to be learning together. Um, mm, it's not a race. So, one of my recommendations, which we're going to be talking about further into the slides, is that first find out what is your why. Why do you want to homeschool? What was the reason that's bringing you to this decision? Your attitude. We got to be positive. There's no way we can teach our kids if and have a break, make it an easy day where you must probably read books or maybe go outside to parks. There's no pressure that you have to do academics from 9 to 5. So we got to be patient with ourselves and be kind to ourselves and love your children. We are the best teachers for them. We are the ones that find the therapists for them. We find all the activities for them. We find the resources that they need. And because we love them, they're our children. So you are the best person to be taking this journey with your child. So how to get started? I'm going to go over Florida state laws on homeschooling. It's very important for you to understand the legality of it here in the state of Florida. We have to follow just a few rules. So first, this is the Florida Department of Education. Be familiar with it. This is a very important webpage for you. You're going to be going and visiting this for lots of information. So I'm going to read what it is. So home education is a parent-directed educational option that satisfies the requirements for regular school attendance enshrined in the Florida statute since 1985. Parents have the freedom to determine their child's educational path and the plan for reaching their goals. Home education students are able to enter institutions of higher learning and are eligible to participate in Florida Bright Future Scholarship Program. Home education students have the opportunity to participate in the Family Empowerment Scholarship, Unique Abilities. We're going to be discussing this one in this presentation. So that's just overall what home is, and we have the freedom to teach our kids however we feel that it's the best way to teach them. So in the state of Florida, if you look down here, the options for homeschooling is we have 3 options. So the options I have them written in here, just like, all right. So we're gonna homeschool under the statute, meaning we do it ourselves. Mom or dad is the teacher, doing the lessons for our kid. You can do it under an umbrella school or a private school. We'll discuss that a little further. Or you can hire a teacher or a tutor to do it for you. So those are all things we're going to be discussing later on in the slides. So those are your options in homeschooling in Florida. School required. You have to, your child is turning the age 6 of the school year that they're turning 6, that's when you would be submitting your letter of intent to homeschool. That's when they're either registered in homeschool or private school or public school. So at the age of 6, that's when you're legally supposed to have your child somewhere. Your notification requirements. We only have one notification requirement, which is submitting our letter of intent. And your qualifications. We have no qualifications for the state of Florida. Parents can teach without a degree. There is no requirement for you to teach your child in the state of Florida. State mandated subjects. We do not have any state mandated subjects. So you don't have to teach science, math, language, arts, and stuff. Those are good things to incorporate into your goals because we need those for college, but it's not that you have to teach all these subjects right now. And you could start them maybe in high school focusing on those things. We can discuss those things as we move forward. But for our special needs kids, sometimes life skills or independence kind of are more important than those academic goals. Assessment requirements. So there's no assessment requirements, but if you choose to do a state mandated test, you can. But we all have to submit an annual evaluation every year in the state of Florida on the anniversary of your letter of intent, which we're going to be discussing that on the next slide. And immunization requirements, none, because we're homeschooling. We don't need to show that to nobody. So In the state of Florida, you need to know who your home education district contacts are. I put them here for you. So don't worry about writing these down. I'm going to have everything at the end of the slide. I'm going to have a link where you can access this. So if you're in Broward, your home education contact would be Deanna. Here's their email for Monroe and Dade. Also, these are the home education contacts. This is where you will be submitting your letter of intent. And this is where you'll be submitting your annual evaluations to these emails every year. Okay, the letter of intent is just once. The annual evaluation is every year. Florida state regulations. So these are the three things we have to do. We have to submit your letter of intent, maintain your portfolio, and submit your annual evaluations. Oopsie. All right, so your letter of intent, what emailing it or sending it through mail to the address or the email provided to you in the slide before. Please save the dates that you sent that. You want to keep a receipt that you sent it. You don't expect, your letter of intent has been received. They're going to say your email has been received and someone will be contacting you. They don't really contact you. You just save that date. That sending of the letter of intent is enough. You don't need to get a confirmation at their end that they got it. The fact that you sent it to the email and you got an email back saying they received something is enough. So maintain your portfolio. How does this look like? So keeping records of your activities. You must have a log of activities, sample writings, workbooks, or materials worked on, and a reading log in chronological order. So I'm going to go into detail about how it was going to look different for our special needs kids. But you're going to want to have like a binder, or you could even make a Facebook page and save all the pictures and activities that you do with your child. And when you have your evaluation at the end of the year, the person evaluating it, who has to be a licensed teacher or a psychologist, can just look at the page and have the summary and the sample work of what your child has done. So submit your annual evaluation. Oh, I forgot to mention, there has to just be proof of progress. So a sample of handwriting their name in January and writing their name at the end of the year. It's proof of them improving their handwriting. Submit your annual evaluation. So this one, you are going to file your evaluation to the school district. This is due on your anniversary of your letter of intent, okay? And you submitted it. So let's look at this. This is a sample letter of intent. You can make your own. This one is provided to you by the FPEA. And also on the Florida website, the Florida Education also has a sample there that you could use. All of these are accepted. They just have to have your child's name, the date of birth, and some say you don't need your address, but you do need the county that you're going to be residing in, and your signature and dated. So here's a sample of a log of educational activities that I use. You don't have to use something like this, but I just created an Excel sheet with like the activities that we do. For our daughters, we focus on reading, writing, art, group meetings. So those are our co-ops, our homeschool centers, any field trips that we do. I checked off the week that we did it. And then we use a lot of like the iPads. So there's lots of free apps that you can download to do like academic stuff on them. So there's Khan Academy and Tiny Tap. And so I just checked off when she worked on it. And our kids are, on the spectrum, most of them get therapy. So I add in the days that they do therapy on there because that is part of their educational program. So ways to do your portfolio. Again, anyone has questions, you can jot them down in the chat box, and at the end I can answer them or just hold them on at the end of the training. I can go over any questions you have. So here are some portfolio ideas. You can keep a calendar and just jot in the calendar everything that you do. That is sufficient to prove to the state of your activities. You need to have a reading log. So you could keep the receipts of the library of all the books that you check out. That's also proof of you checking out these books and doing and reading it. You can, like I told you, have a binder, filling it up chronologically with all the sample work that they do. So any art projects or reading reports they've done, writing reports that they've done, or anything they work even in therapy. If they're doing scissor cutting or anything like that, working on manipulatives, you can put pictures or items like that inside of the binder and just write a little note of what it was that child was working on. In the binder, I include the OT, PT, or speech reports the evaluations that they do. That's something you can add to their binders as, their goals are part of their academic goals too, whatever they're working on with the therapist. Videos and pictures. This is one of my favorites. I have a Facebook page. On my Facebook page, I put pictures of what my children are working on, and I write in a little blurb of, we do unit studies so that we're doing space. So we worked on learning the planets. The kids sang a song. They matched words. They did sensory activities and practice answering WH questions or working in teams for sharing, and I write that all in the little blog. And again, you can return to that. At the end of the year, your evaluator can check that out, and it's just a nice documented, it's easily stored there for you. And journal. Some families do journaling, which is just like have a notebook where you just jot everything in and put sample work in there as well. If your child is able to write and can do summaries, they're doing summary reports or working on answering questions, they can put those samples or worksheets inside of a journal as well. So annual evaluations. Your home education law provides 5 options for evaluations. An individual evaluation must be done by a Florida certified teacher of your choice. I have someone on here. It's just a reference for you to go to her page because she has some really great free resources. You do not have to use her. You can use anyone of your liking who you would want to complete your evaluations. Another one is any nationally normed student achievement test. So any standardized test is also acceptable. You can just take the test, submit, and you submit your results, and the teacher can sign that off. A psychological evaluation also is accepted. So if they're getting an annual psych eval, that is accepted, that the child is meeting whatever you and the therapist is saying they're supposed to be at, the level they're supposed to be at, that they're completing it. Any other method mutually agreed upon the parent and the superintendent. So you could call them and say, hey, these don't work for me. I need something else. And you work up a plan with them. But normally people do the portfolio and an evaluation. I find that the easiest. So this is the person I was talking to. Her name is Cheryl. This is part of her website from FloridaHomeschoolEvaluations.com. And she just said it really beautifully. She tells you what you should have in your portfolio, the sample of work, what it should look like, what you don't need to worry about. I just she's really user-friendly. She has great ideas. Again, her resources are going to be available in the Padlet. I'm going to be linking to you at the end. Here are samples of home educational annual evaluation forms. So the one to the left is what the state provides to you. You could use theirs. You could also make your own. I made my own. All I did was I put my daughter's name. I put her date. You need to have the teacher's name with their license on it. Their certification number must be on the form for it to be acceptable. And you must put the statute of what that you're homeschooling under the Florida statute. But yeah, this is pretty simple. You can either use the form made for you or make your own. It's pretty flexible. So we're going to be talking about the benefits of homeschooling. It's my favorite topic. Before I get started, I want you guys to understand that it's going to look different for everyone. You're going to find the method your child learns best, whether they can't do workbooks, whether they can't go to a co-op, where they can't do things independently, or they need to be working more on life skills. Across all of this, we can work on. Homeschooling is just so flexible. Everything they're doing is learning. We're lifelong learners. So our children need extra amount of time for learning new skills. So it's just the best thing of making your daily routines incorporated into how you're going to homeschool. So what are the benefits? Our homeschooling is really flexible in every way, in time, in how you teach and where you teach. Tailored curriculum, individualized pace. It works on, one of the benefits is freedom to explore their interests, focus on life skills, and socialization opportunities. So flexibility is super fun because you customize your schedule. We are not morning people in my household. So our girls do not wake up first thing in the morning to do their lessons. We do life skills first thing in the morning. My daughter, I don't know about your children, but hygiene is something that we need a lot of work on. Brushing teeth, getting changed out of their pajamas, tidying up a little bit. Those things, it's going to take them years to do it independently. Why not work on it now? So instead of focusing on academics first thing in the morning, you could do some self-care. So here I have just an example. We do schoolwork in our pajamas. So my daughter is here in her PJ. She loves art. And so we had just read, this is Halloween timing. We had just read a book about witches, and she chose to draw her witch, and her goal, she does not like writing. So after she draws her favorite thing, she just has to do a one word or like a few, like 3-word sentence to practice on that handwriting of what she liked about that story we read. We're working on, her writing, her reading, and art is her favorite form of medium of learning. So I'm really flexible on how she wants to do that lesson. And here again, art is very popular in our household. This is right before bedtime. So I just put on a tutorial, and this calms my daughters down, getting ready for bed. And they were all working on a painting right before going to bed. So again, we read a book, and we did the art project, and the kids is really at their own pace and their interests, and when they're wanting to do things. So tailored curriculum, you're meeting your child at their individual needs and learning styles. So one of the methods of homeschooling is unit studies that we're going to be talking about later. So that's when you pick a topic and you do everything under that topic. So let's say farming, you're going to do science, math, reading, writing, social skills, everything on farming. And that's just to bring our children need a very realistic approach to learning so they can understand and they want to do things. And so my daughter has a very hard time attending to questions, going back and forth. She just talks about her own interests. So this is a fun thing that we talk about farms, and I made it into a game. I took a regular Guess Who board game, just changed the pictures out to farm animals, and I made a template for visual and for writing. So for readers, one side was for people who can read, that can say, does your animal have horns? Or so we're using descriptors, we're using some nouns and verbs and adjectives, we're helping them expand their vocabulary. Or if they're not, they can't read, I have visuals where it was pictures with the word who, what, when, where, so they could be able to answer questions to kind of find out who the animal was that their friend had. And we're working on social skills, taking turns. So you could tailor your curriculum to be purely games. Our kids have a very hard time attending. They have a very hard time waiting their turn and playing appropriately with peers. This is a great way of putting academics and social time together. Individualized pace. You're going at your own pace, at your own time. So we prioritize that Victoria's independence was much more important than academics. So we focused on her therapy. So she did OT, PT, and 6 times a week. And then later came the academics. So we worked on all her goals to be able to hold a pencil because she didn't want to write. So we worked on all those strengthening skills. We worked on her sensory input. Sensory integration is super important. In homeschool, you're so flexible, you can add in 15 minutes of sensory time as much as your child needs and then get back to the lesson. So it's just a freedom of allowing your child to be themselves and at their own pace be ready to do all the learning that they need to do so that they can be independent. Freedom to explore their interests. There's no limits. So there is no one telling you this is how you have to teach your child, and you can only teach this. In a school setting, they have to kind of go with whatever the teacher has in place because that's just how it works. And we have to respect that. That's for the safety and the function of the classroom. It's what we have to do. But at home, it's, it's a freedom of exploring what they want to do and how they want to do it. And also if you want to do it, because if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Mom is in control, dad is in control of how you want to present the material too. So here's an example. My daughter, I do a lot of read alouds. I do not force my children to read when they're ready. Victoria's 9 years old and now she's showing interest to want to read. She's doing it on her own. I've done read alouds and now she wants it. What do? We all sit around the couch. And as you see, I have like a swiggly chair and like crash pads. And my kids are bouncing and jumping as I'm doing the activities. They're getting their input, but they are listening and they are learning, they're paying attention. And then we're doing breaks. We do lots of breaks. My daughter loves being outside in nature. So we let her just go and roll around and take her breaks when she needs it. And then we do lots of field trips. Field trips are our favorite. You do a lesson and then you go that Friday, you can go to the fire station, it's free. If you do community service hour, community helpers, and they do tours. So it's it's unlimited, the things that you can do for your child's interests. Let's say your child loves trains. You could do so much with trains to help them come out of their shell, to be more involved with everyone, with their community, with their peers, with their family. And then this bonding happens naturally because everyone is calm and happy working together. Now, it's not easy peasy every day. And that's where I say be patient. And if you need a break, guess what? We can have Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday could be your weekend, and you homeschool Saturday and Sunday. So you have the freedom of doing lessons or academics, even though I believe you're learning all day long. You could focus, if you're going to be doing academics, you can just not do them Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and just do them some other time. Some families take breaks, like a month break, not during the summer. Summers, they continue because it's so hot to be outside. So we'll take breaks maybe in January, So it's really your flexibility of how you want your homeschool to look, and what's feasible for your family. So focus on your life skills. This is what I do. I don't know how many of us here, our children need so much help with their day-to-day living skills. So this is my primary focus. We focus on hygiene, we focus on time management, with transitioning. My daughter has severe anxiety, meltdowns occur periodically when we have to transition. And we know life is not always a schedule. Sometimes things happen. So it's really important to include this as part of your curriculum or your goals in homeschooling for our children, especially because they need help with emotional regulations. And it's super cool that you could be home and you know what? You had to go to the grocery store, but your kid is having a meltdown putting on their shoe. You could just delay it a little bit, help them get through it, putting on their shoes, being more present, being more calm, and then moving on forward. So you're not letting them, I don't want to say get away with not doing something, but you're just giving them more processing time. They don't have pressure and you don't have pressure. Sometimes we're on a time constraint, but it's not always. So those are things to keep in mind. We work a lot on memory skills. My daughter forgets the next steps of what we're supposed to do things, executive functions. So we work on like, do we do next? What do we do next? And I have visual schedule in the house, and she knows when she wakes up, there's a visual of like, she's supposed to brush her teeth, put the toothbrush back. She'll leave it sometimes on the floor. So I remind her putting her clothes away, doing her organizing her room. In our household, so she has sensory issues, getting dirty. I incorporated washing dishes. So she has to wash her dishes as part of some of her life skills. When she's done with breakfast, she's 9 years old. She really has a hard time with her manipulatives. But guess what? This is practice. She'll be a great 18-year-old washing dishes later. But right now, I'm just helping her. She doesn't have to do it perfect. We tell her to complete it. Perfection is not what we're looking for. We're looking for completion. We just finished it. And as we do it every time, we're going to get better at it. So life skills is our primary focus. And then we do academic skills supplemental throughout the day. And I'm going to show you how we do those. All right, so socialization opportunities. So the idea that homeschoolers are not social is just not true. It's not true. You can absolutely create many opportunities. The world of technology, the technology has done for us. Facebook, Instagram has opened up the doors for us to be able to connect with each other. And guess what? You can make up, you would go to Facebook or Instagram, join a Florida homeschool group in your area and say, hey, who wants to go to the beach today? Or who wants to host a Play-Doh party? Or who wants to do, and how many families want to attend? They get together and you start making new friends. And at first you could be clear, your child is on the spectrum, is not on the spectrum. It depends on how you want to disclose your information, but there's groups for everybody. So please don't feel like you're alone, because you're not. We have a huge community of support out in Florida and all over the world, really. But Florida has a really great opportunities and a lot of free stuff for us to do as families to get together, which I'm going to discuss in the next slide. But one of the social opportunities is creating a co-op, joining a group, which we're going to discuss shortly. So here's my daughter. I just wanted to mention, we did a community helpers, and we were talking about builders. And so we just filled up a tub with sand and put construction stuff. And she's here with a peer practicing her sharing skills without hurting her peer. She's very nice working with her friend here inside of the sand pit. And the other one, we were practicing what police officers' role are in a community, so they're never afraid of police officers. And the kids got to play dress up with other peers, practice role playing, being cops, and robbers. And we gave them scenarios, because our children, sometimes scenarios are very abstract. We kind of created it this way so they could practice it and kind of understand what a police officer's job is, and how, if you see trouble, what to do, who to look for in case you're in trouble. And so that's the really cool thing about homeschooling, of how concrete you can get with concepts, and you can stay on a concept for a month or 2 months, depends until you think your child is ready to move on. Financial responsibility. So this is really important to talk about. Someone say, how can I homeschool? How can I homeschool? Like, am I going to have to quit my job? How am I going to help? How financially am I going to do this? Because money is important. We need to provide for our family and be able to also do all the things we want to do, right? So there are one-income households already with family with special needs, because sometimes with our child with special needs, somebody needs to be there. So some of us are already doing that, okay? And there are families who are both parents are working, okay? So I know families who the family kind of works part-time, and they're kind of mom is available during the day, or they homeschool in the afternoons because she works in the day, or dad works in the day, however, whoever's responsibilities are situated in your household. But it is very doable. In our home, we chose for me, to not work anymore. I was a behavior therapist. I used to work in a school with special needs kids, and I just couldn't. My daughter needed me, and so we chose to budget, have a really, really tight budget, and just live on one income. And thank goodness, what I'm gonna show you next is what's really helped us. But Florida has some really great resources for us, which leads me on to this. So financial assistance. I don't know how many of us know about the Family Empowerment Scholarship, Unique Abilities. But if you do not know about this, this is a scholarship. All you need is a diagnosis. There's a huge diagnosis list of what qualifies you to be unique abilities. Autism is one of them. So if your child is diagnosed autistic, all you need is diagnosis letter, your child's information, and you qualify for the scholarship. And this scholarship awards you every year funds that you can use for homeschooling. Now, you must be a homeschool recipient. You either are going to be in private school, a co-op, a micro school, or you're homeschooling your child. We're going to discuss what those are in a moment, but you can use those funds to help you educate your child. You can buy the equipments, the computers, the projectors, the science kits, the sensory equipment your child needs, because sensory integration is so important for our child's development. So this scholarship opens the door for families who maybe are on one income and wonder, how am I going to pay for this? It'll pay for your therapy. It'll pay to hire a teacher or a tutor if you don't feel comfortable teaching certain things. So this scholarship really has opened doors for families. I'm very blessed to be receiving it for both of my daughters. And I'm going to be talking about those who have multiple children that they plan, like neurotypical and atypical, autistic or non-autistic, that there's PEP scholarship as well, that we're going to be the personal education program that is for the siblings of those on the unique abilities. I'm not going to go in too deep with the supplemental security income, Medicaid waiver, and ABLE accounts. They're going to be available on the Padlet I'm going to be sharing with you. But this is for, like, I guess when you're for older, more severe children on the spectrum. And so this is for like when you're moving on to like young adult, like exiting 18 years old and up. So I'm not going to be discussing so much, but I'm having it there in case you're interested to look at it on the Padlet. So selecting a homeschool method. All right. So what is your why to homeschool? I told you what my why was. My child has so much anxiety. I needed her to kind of get past that emotional problems she was having to even want to learn. She wasn't communicating, and my goal was for independence. So reading was not my goal. I needed her to be able to get her clothes on so we can go do activities. I needed her to be able to let me wash her hair, brush her hair, and get with my day. So and be safe at home. She wasn't, as a toddler, she was not safe. She did a lot of harmful things, like not safe with furniture and stuff. So independence was our key focus. So I want you guys to kind of think of what is your reason to want to homeschool, because it's really important, and it's going to help guide you on how you're going to be homeschooling your child. And I'm going to be presenting Maxine. She is a parent who kind of really sums up her why. And I'd like you guys to take a listen.
Hi, I've been homeschooling now for about 10 years, I want to say, and I've got 6 kids. My third son has autism. He was diagnosed at about 3 or 4. And we looked into putting him in public school because they offered all these really great things on paper, and they had specialists and they had all these people. And I was like, all right, cool. And I thought, I'm going to get trained to help my son. So I will go in the class and volunteer. And I'm going to learn all these things from these people who are highly educated and they have all these degrees and all of these skills. And then I'm going to be able to do it at my house so that I can continue doing those things with my kids. And the school system said, well, no. You can't go into the class. Like, you can. I'm like, well, can I observe? Can I volunteer once a week? Anything? No, because I would be a distraction. And I would get filled in when I picked him up after class. And I was just like, you mean when there's a line of parents waiting and you're trying to go home, you're going to fill me in on my own kid during that time? No, thank you. And so I homeschooled all my other kids from day one. Nobody's ever been in school. And I thought, my special needs son who has special needs is not going to be able to get help from me in any way. I'm going to be filled in on my own child, and that just wasn't good enough. So I decided to just take him out, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do my best. We did a DIY type of thing. We weren't getting services, we weren't getting anything. And through our homeschool program, he has been just since he was 4, standing up in front of kids, doing public speaking, even if it's just, hi, my name is Lincoln, and high-fiving people as he says their names, as I hold up a card, because he taught himself to read when he was 3. And I would just hold up a card right above their head, and Isaiah, Drake. And so he would just do that. And since then, I mean, he's just grown so much. My own kids have grown to learn how to work with their brother. I expect that when I'm old and gray or when I die, my kids are not going to just stick them into an institution, because they've grown up with this culture of being together, and they learn how to be with their brother. They learn how to teach him. They learn how to be with him when he's having a meltdown and I'm not there. They know how to calm him down, and I'm not relying on some specialist who knows my son better than I do. It's just not, that's just not what we're doing. So our homeschool culture revolves around not just knowing God, but working together so that we can be independent for God's glory. So
I love how Maxine just mentions the culture of homeschooling. It's just more than learning, guys. It's such it's an opportunity for the whole family to understand our children, right? For us, for me to be a better mom, to learn to work with my child, how they need to learn. And they also learn, because if you have siblings, they got to learn how to adapt with everyone in the household. So it's a constant learning opportunity of multidisciplinary, multi-intelligence all day long at different levels, different ages. And it's cool because my daughters are exposed to all ages. They're not just with 8-year-olds or 7-year-olds. They're with older kids, they're with younger kids. And I love it because, Victoria, who now wants to know how to read, is encouraged to read to the 2-year-olds because she thinks they're so cute. So she wants to read a book to the younger kids. And this motivates connection, which some of our kids on the spectrum, sometimes it's hard for them to do it. But naturally, the environment we're creating is giving these opportunities for connection, for independence, which is such a benefit, is such a blessing to be able to provide this. So to give you guys tools and so that you're encouraged, if this is the path that your family wants to take, that you feel equipped to do it. So now we're going to talk about, what is your learning direction? What is it going to look like? Only you know this because you know your family best. And these are the methods that exist in homeschooling. These are just a few, but they're like the most popular ones. So you have your traditional. Your traditional is like the people who recreate school at home, like have a desk, a chalkboard, and everything. You can do that if that's what you like, because you need to be structured, right? And if it works for your child, you can do that. Then you have your classical methods, and these are your people who do a lot of literature, a lot of your Aristotle, your the theories where you're incorporating memorization of context of history and math and science. You have literature based. So there's people who take living books, or books that can teach all your subjects. Now in Florida, we are not required to have to teach subjects, but you should, because we're preparing, that's what they're going to need for their college transcript, should your child be going on their path. If that's not their path, then you don't need to worry for that, because we need to be realistic. What is my child, where is my child at, and where should I be teaching him? What should we be doing? And that's why understanding what your why is important on what direction you're going to take. Then you have Charlotte Mason, your Waldorf, your Montessori. These are your nature-based, child-led instructions. This is where you kind of let nature and just like natural life kind of teach the kids as they go, using very little, I want to say not little manipulatives, is very much with manipulatives, but letting them play at their own pace. And like you're getting, the play becomes kind of harder for them. And that's how cognitive development and critical thinking come up. You have eclectic. Eclectic means a mash of everything. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that you're incorporating. I'm very much eclectic. because I do a lot of literature-based, I do co-ops, I do unit studies, I do lots of unschooling, which we're going to talk about. So next is unit studies. Unit studies are my favorite. You just pick a topic and we do 8 weeks on that one topic or 6 weeks on that one topic. Right now we're doing a space unit and it's a 5-week unit, and we're breaking down the solar system, and we're doing projects and like literature on space. We're doing a lot of I'm trying to work on the handwriting because it's not her favorite. So we're gonna start doing typing to see if maybe she'll do that, because I know she can read. Is getting her to produce it. But unit studies is it's my favorite avenue. And then after every unit study, we do a field trip. Field trips are the best in Florida. There's so many options for us to do. We have planetariums and museums that are accessible to us. And if you are an FESUA recipient, the scholarship recipient, all of this is reimbursable. So that's the coolest part. Your field trips are reimbursable. Multiple intelligence, that's just kids that are twice exceptional, they're really advanced. So they're 6-year-olds reading, 8th grade stuff. So it's you really can go at your own child's pace. And that's super cool, because the kid is never going to be bored. So when they're bored, they misbehave and they think things are boring and they don't want to do work. So you got to challenge them sometimes. And unschooling. So unschooling is what I recommend all of us do in the beginning, because you have to unlearn what you think learning is about. And it's about relaxing and enjoying each other's time and getting to understand all the different methods and where you kind of fall. Okay. It's pretty unschooling. I feel like you're naturally learning. It's really, you wake up and you're learning to be respectful to your family, even if you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You're learning, dynamics of learning how to work with people and different ages. And you have to go through life. My children can go to the grocery store. They have a list and they they get all the items. Remember, they're 9, 7, and 5. And they find all the items, and we pay with cash and sometimes, or with the credit card, and they pay attention to what the amount is. And they remember last week's transaction. So they do the math of if we saved or if we went overboard. And these are all life skills, realistic, purposeful, meaningful experiences, teaching them life. So that's what our children have such a hard time connecting the dots. So living life helps them. When you make it purposeful and meaningful, it not just reading it, not just being in a classroom doing it, but living it helps them make those connections and understand what their expectations are too. So let's talk about Florida resources. We have museums, we have nature centers, we have our public parks and season activities it does. So it's one of the cool things is all these places are reimbursable from the scholarship, I'd like to add. But you could go to them and say, hey, I'd like to do your Florida environment class. And they're going to teach about all the animals that live in Florida. And you have a nature center expert teaching you. These are people who this is their job. They studied this. The expert is teaching your child, doing unique STEM opportunities, which are like science and math activities with them. And you can make a co-op, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And they can go with their friends to all these little field trips that are here. The one to my left is Gumbo Limbo, which is free. It's a free resource in Florida. You can go see an aquarium, learn about the animals, and then go to the beach and do some beach cleanup. It makes it purposeful for them to understand the environment they live in. When they connect, they care. Public parks. We don't have lunch at home. We go and have a big snack at the park, and the kids get to be in nature and get all those, the energy and the movement that they need. And this is accessible to you, on a nice day for us to enjoy our Florida weather, right, out in all the parks that they have available. Now, one of the other best places, so that we have the co-op, you do field trips, you can create a co-op. I made mine through Facebook. I met a family on the playground. we were seeing each other too many times after therapy. Her child was not on the spectrum, but she was just meeting there at the same time. And we're like, hey, let's go do art together. And one day the art activity turned into, hey, let's do lessons. And so it went from 3 moms to now we're 10 moms getting together twice a week, doing lessons with our kids. So a mom does the activity, we rotate, and you can set it up however you like. If that's something you guys are interested in, and we have a good outcome with these trainings, I'm going to be doing a series on talking about how we can do these things. But down here, Lion Country Safari. Lion Country Safari has classes. You can pay to have one of their staff do a lesson, mammal lesson, reptilian lesson, and they bring out live animals and the eggs and the skin of the snake and stuff to incorporate to make it a very hands-on, realistic lesson, vivid lesson for our children. And, you know, our kids reading it from a book and seeing it in front of you, wow, imagine that connection. It's just taking learning to another level, and for all children, not just special needs kids. And then, you know, we go to little gyms and stuff like that. The library, get your library cards. Everyone should have a library card, okay? Because you can reserve for free meeting rooms to host your events. They have free books that you can get for your lessons. And they also host a lot of events for all ages. So you should be checking out your library. Broward County Library has sensory bags for your children, headphones and fidgets and gadgets for you to get. You can reserve them and you go and you check it out. So there's so many resources that are free available to us as homeschoolers and to the community. So Facebook is your connections. This is where you want to make your connections. I'm not going to really go into this. This is the Florida Special Needs Homeschool Families is Cheryl's page. It's going to be on the Padlet I'm going to be sharing with you. And just go onto Facebook and find your group or make a group if you haven't been able to find one. And you find your community, because without your community, you know, by yourselves, it's not going to really be great. But finding a tribe to do this with would be great. So thank you guys so much. Stephanie, I don't know if you want to pause it or stop the meeting.
Yes, thank you again. This has been absolutely amazing and so much information, so much amazing information. I'm gonna go ahead and pause it for any parents that have, I just paused it. Any parent that